And then, so how do we make them? So we use FCP as an editing app, but obviously that isn't accessible all around the world. Like there is editing apps on your phone, which do the basics. And there is also an in-app editor on TikTok, which you could use just to stitch videos together. One of the benefits of TikTok is that it's vertical video. So you don't need all this fancy camera equipment. You don't need all of that. If you've got a phone, you can make a TikTok and you can tell news on TikTok, which is really good. We're kind of spoiled for choice because we have our newsroom and we have material coming around from the world. But in general, a good thing to think about workflow, if you're trying to set this kind of thing up, is to have someone at your base who can edit / choose material, and someone who can go out and film and gather material is kind of what we've learned as well. And just in general, so these are the kind of formats that I kind of touched on before, but I would say the most important thing is the hook of the video. Like you could have the best video in the world, but if you don't stop people from scrolling through TikTok, they're not going to see it. So once you've got your video together, a lot of effort should be put into that first like 3 seconds. So that's where you should have a thumbnail, which tells you exactly what the video is about. You should have a script in line, which is the hook, which kind of makes someone stop and listen to the hook. And you should have the best video or pictures you have at the start. What am I saying? And then after that, it's all down to kind of like content density. Like if you want to keep people watching, you have to keep them engaged every second. So it's how much content can you fit into every single second of a TikTok? Because the minute people stop learning, the minute people are not engaged, the minute people aren't learning something, they will just flick off. So it is just up to you to kind of like keep that intensity up. These are kind of examples of that. So we had on the right there is your questions answered. So that one kind of goes back to engagement. So people on TikTok like it when they feel like you're talking to them. So that one was framed around the most Googled questions around Liz Truss, who just became our Prime Minister. But that one was kind of framed as, these are the questions that you're asking about Liz Truss, and we're going to answer them. So that kind of is that kind of back and forth. And then the one next to it was our one about young Tories. So it was kind of seeing the perspective that you don't normally see, because there was these kids who can't vote in like a general election, but because they're members of the Conservative Party, they could vote in the Conservative membership leadership race. Then the one next to it is one that did really well. It was like from the front line. So that one is kind of about access. So people enjoy videos where they can be in the heart of the story and like see stuff that they wouldn't normally see. And if we can do that as a news organization, it works really well. And then explainers is the recession one, obviously, but I would say don't rely on explainers. It is kind of easy to think, okay, we need to explain everything about it, but sometimes stories are video led. For instance, the one on the left there was the North Korea firing a missile over Japan. So we originally started scripting that as an explainer, and then halfway through we looked at the videos, and there's all these videos of people stopping while like the sirens like kind of ring out. We were like, actually that's more effective. Like if we just do that and then put a little bit of text on screen, that tells the story better. And I think that got like 1.8 million views in the end. So it's just, yeah, it's picking what format you need to tell the news. These are all ones that can work, can be in your toolbox, but just think about the story and think about which format you'll use.
Did you want to play out?
Did I want to play out any of them? Which one? Show either the North Korea or the Ukraine one, I think.
Don't make me show the young Tory ones, because that was so cringe. Yeah.
Drone
Right.
that is flying over the
I
Russian
can't show this one,
position.
sorry, because it's half hidden, so I'm just going to show this one instead. I'm so sorry.
Liz Truss is going to be the UK's next Prime Minister, but a lot of you have questions about her, so here's some answers. Let's get the basics out the way. Liz Truss is 47 years old. She lives between London and Norfolk. She's married to an accountant and she has 2 teenage daughters. Mary Elizabeth Truss is a Conservative MP. She first entered Parliament back in 2010 and she's held some pretty senior positions under various different Prime Ministers, David Cameron, Theresa May, and most recently she was Foreign Secretary under Boris Johnson. South West Norfolk, and before that she was a councillor in Greenwich, having tried and failed twice previously to be an MP in West Yorkshire. So Liz Truss was born in Oxford, but then she moved to Scotland when she was 4. Liz Truss went to a state school in Leeds, and then she did a philosophy, politics and economics degree at Oxford. After she graduated, she became an accountant at Shell. Liz Truss was a Liberal Democrat when she was a student. She even spoke at one of their conferences in favour of abolishing the monarchy. But then when she was at Oxford, she switched to become a Conservative. Yeah, Liz Truss campaigned for the UK to stay in the EU, arguing that Brexit would be a triple tragedy of more rules, forms and delays when trying to sell stuff to Europe. But after the result, she appeared to change her mind, saying that Brexit would be an opportunity to shake up the way that things work.
And I think that one as well was kind of an example of like language, even when you're explaining like political stuff, which can be pretty boring, let's be honest. It's using the right kind of language, just stripping it back to fact. And like one that I wish I had, but we only posted yesterday, was we had like a BBC News investigation about begging on TikTok. So it's refugees in camps in Syria using TikTok to beg, and TikTok takes 70% of those proceeds. So that went out on the site and got 1.2 million views on the site. And then we also had a TikTok version of it where we worked with them and the BBC Arabic department to make a TikTok version of it, where it was like spoke the language of the app. It had like the presenter. We did a script, but then used bits of their documentary. That got 1.1 million views on TikTok alone. So it kind of shows when you do it right, you can rival even the site itself when it comes to reaching people. And I can guarantee that that will have reached more 18 to 25-year-olds than the story did.
Yeah, and also talking about the platform on the platform, it just, yeah, it just gets people feeling like, oh yeah, you're here with us, like, you know, you're in this environment with us, since you understand everything that's happening, because a lot of people will have come across those lives actually in their For You page.
Right. I mean, this might be a good junction to sort of answer some of the questions that have come into the chat.